David Rives, host of Wonders Without Number. In each episode, we talk about breaking discoveries in science, which reveal that our Creator, the God of the Bible, has left a pattern of His fingerprints throughout the universe. Check out our other resources at davidrives.com. Sign up for email updates to have encouraging nuggets sent straight to your inbox. Subscribe to our free monthly magazine and like us on Facebook for daily inspiration and education regarding science and the Bible. While it's easy for us to look at different creatures and imagine that they might have evolved through a long series of changes, a look at DNA reveals a very different picture. Find out more on Wonders Without Number. Welcome to Wonders Without Number. I'm David Rives, and today we want to inform and inspire you regarding the wonders we find all around us. An infinite number of wonders that point us directly to our Creator, the God of the Bible. Now, you're no accident. I want you to know that you're special, that you were created in God's own image, that Jesus Christ was and is that Creator, and that He has a plan for your life. Now, God has designed some amazing systems into your body, which allows it to self-heal. A great example would be blood clotting. It's necessary in this fallen world, and it usually works really well. Let's take a look right now. Why should you believe in creation and not evolution? I mean, scientifically speaking. Haven't we proven that evolution is a fact? The theories of evolution would indicate that life is the result of chance processes over millions of years. It would claim that life and all of life's systems have slowly evolved from simple to complex. But many of the features we see in nature are irreducibly complex. Now, what does this mean? Well, something is irreducibly complex if it needs all of its parts in order to function. Take away even one part or one step and the system fails. For example, a modern car is very complex, but it's not irreducibly complex. You can get rid of the air conditioning, power windows, or seat belts without rendering the car useless. The fenders could go, back seats, speaker system, even the windshield, and it would still be functional as an automobile. A mousetrap, on the other hand, isn't very complex, but it is irreducibly complex. Each piece is needed or the trap won't work. Now, in nature, we see many examples of irreducible complexity. Let's look at the blood clotting mechanism. Say you're preparing dinner, and just as you get that last roll buttered for the oven, you slice your finger. Okay, you don't stop to think about the incredible complex process going on inside your body to stop the bleeding and form a protective clot. You just slap on a Band-Aid and go on with your day. But inside your body, an amazing process is happening. Blood clotting requires what's called a cascade. This means that each step is vital for the next step. You can't skip a step in the cascade as each one is dependent on the previous step. Now, the blood clotting cascade requires over 100 steps. Each step must be in place the first time an animal is cut, or it will slowly bleed to death. How did over 100 steps just happen to all be in place at the right time? Having half the steps is no good. Having 99 steps is no good. The animal will bleed to death and not pass its genes along. No evolution. The whole system must be in place the first time it's needed. And not only do all these steps have to be in place, but the body also needs to be able to clot the blood just right so only the cut is sealed and not the entire blood vessel. Clots are life-saving when they seal a wound, but deadly if they block the blood supply. And yet our body knows how to do this without us even having to give it a single thought. Now, blood clotting is a challenge for evolutionary ideas. There's no way all of the necessary steps could have all evolved together at the same time. Instead of trusting in these old, outdated, and sometimes ridiculous ideas of Darwinian evolution, perhaps we should be looking towards the new research, scientific data that seems to be pointing us back to biblical accuracy, a Creator who intelligently designed the universe, life, and the blood clotting mechanism. Just one more scientific reason that you shouldn't believe in human evolution. It takes a lot of faith. I'm David Rives. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God. Without the many functions of our bodies, we would be dead. But without DNA, we wouldn't even exist. It's the blueprints that makes us who we are, and that's one of the topics my guest is here to tackle. Jay Seegert has his bachelor's degree in physics from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. He's the director of the Starting Point Project, and he's been speaking on apologetics for over 30 years now. Jay lives in Wisconsin, and he has a great passion for helping Christians strengthen their faith. So what I want you to do now is join with me as we welcome Jay Seegert. Welcome to the program.
Honored to be here with you today.
It is great to have you here. Tell me just a little bit about the Starting Point Project.
Sure, it's all about starting points. Christians, we believe that God exists and the Bible is His Word. We use that as a starting point to define everything else. So we get into conversations helping Christians better understand and defend the Christian worldview, and then offering a gracious challenge to the sincere skeptic.
That is super. Okay, I know that you've got a lot to cover because this is an exciting topic. I'm not going to give too much away. I want you to take us through it now.
Sure. General premises that certain portions of the evolutionary story seem fairly plausible. I mean, little changes here and there over millions and millions of years. It doesn't take much imagination to envision fins getting a little longer, stronger, turning into legs. But when you pop the hood, peek under the hood to see what has to go on inside to make these changes, specifically in the DNA, that's where you realize it's just not going to happen.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of background. This particular content came from a symposium I went to. It was a bioinformatics symposium at Cornell University, led by Dr. John Sanford. It was 27 lectures in 3 days, very, very intense. Gathered information and put this particular talk together. I think the audience is going to find it very interesting. So we're going to start out asking the question, are you smarter than a fifth grader? I asked people, how many people have seen that show? Most have seen a little bit. It's a little bit dangerous to watch because you might find out that maybe you're not smarter than a fifth grader. We're going to change this up though and ask, are you smarter than a PhD scientist?
Oh, okay.
Most people would say, well, of course not. I mean, those guys are brilliant. I honestly believe that after the viewers sees this presentation, they will actually be smarter than most PhD scientists when it comes to the creation-evolution controversy, because the vast majority of scientists aren't studying this. They're making rocket fuel, computers, cell phones. They're doing great stuff. This isn't their area. Even many scientists who do study evolution, they're not exposed to all this. So after you've seen this, you'll be better positioned to discuss the creation-evolution controversy than most PhD scientists.
Okay.
And again, general premise, certain things look pretty good from a certain angle, a certain distance, like this bright red BMW. Envision opening the hood and seeing a beautiful engine underneath there.
Yeah.
Well, what if when you opened the hood you saw this? The engine is missing. A little bit of a problem there. What looked good initially, upon closer inspection, doesn't look so good anymore.
You got to live.
That's what we're going to see with evolution. For example, we have an Australian lungfish and a newt.
Okay.
It doesn't take much imagination to, again, to picture those fins getting a little longer, stronger, turning into the legs there.
Yeah.
But when we pop the hood to see what goes on in the DNA, we're going to see all sorts of problems that make it impossible.
From the outside, it looks easy. Just a few little minor changes.
Not much imagination there.
Okay.
Richard Dawkins, which we're all familiar with, said a lot of interesting things, one of which was this: you cannot be both sane and well-educated and disbelieve in evolution. The evidence is so strong that any sane, educated person has got to believe in evolution.
So right there, he's making a statement. He's calling anyone who does not follow his worldview insane.
Insane. It's very intimidating, coming from a scientist.
It
and
is.
we face this especially in the universities. So, how do we respond to that? Well, Proverbs 18:17 says this: the first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him.
Okay.
We've all been in those positions where you hear something, you're like, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Someone else comes along and says, well, wait a minute, did you know about this or that or that? You're like, no, I didn't know that.
All of a sudden, this doesn't sound so plausible.
That's right. And so that's what we're going to see with evolution. I facetiously say that Evolution 1:1 says that the only one to please his cause seems right because no one else is allowed to challenge him or present other views.
Yes.
That's what we have in our public school systems and state universities. They're only presenting one view, so of course it's going to seem plausible and believable. So again, we're going to be looking at the other side here a little bit with this particular talk.
Perfect.
Now, there's a little bit of arranging and storytelling that goes on in discussing evolution. I've got 4 modes of transportation here on the screen. We're going to arrange these things from simpler to more complex.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the evolution of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
How the smaller wheels of the tricycle came forward to build the bigger wheel in the back of the bike. Chains moved into electric motor of the scooter. Electric motor turned into a gas combustion engine. Now,
Yes.
it's a silly story, but all I did was I took existing things, lined them up from simpler to more complex, and told stories. That's what we often see with evolution.
Yes.
As an example, the evolution of the horse from Eohippus all the way up to the modern horse. Here's an interesting quote from Dr. Niles Eldredge, one of the world's leading evolutionists. This is what he had to say. He's the former curator of the American Museum of Natural History. He said, I admit that an awful lot has gotten into the textbooks as though it were true. For instance, the most famous example still on exhibit in the American Museum, that's his museum, is the exhibit on horse evolution. That has been presented as literal truth in textbook after textbook. Now I think that that is lamentable, but by the time it filters down to the textbooks, we got a problem.
Wow.
So what's he saying? In a nutshell, okay, we know it's not true, and apparently it's okay for the museums, but you shouldn't have it in the textbooks teaching the students. Well, if it didn't happen and shouldn't be in the textbooks, why is it okay for the museums?
Exactly, because the museums are a major influence on cementing the things that the textbooks are teaching.
Millions of students going through and seeing those physical representations, which they'll talk about this, how a fish evolved into an amphibian over millions and millions of years. So what did it look like in the middle? Well, that's what we typically call a missing link, but then they say, but we found it's Tiktaalik. They found another fossil, put it in the middle, lined it up, told the stories. This has also already been discounted because the footprints they've discovered will skip some of those details, but all they did is found a fossil, put it in the middle between something else and told the stories. Doing this isn't much different than doing that. Talking about how an Etch-a-Sketch evolved into an iPad. They aren't completely different. There are some similarities here.
That's true.
So what did it look like in the middle? Well, we can use our imagination, you know, a little bit of one or the other. But we know there's no way something as simple as an Etch-a-Sketch could turn on its own into something as complex as an iPad. It's not going to happen. Very similar with evolution. These complexities aren't going to happen, especially when we take a look at the DNA.
It's easy to line up things in sequence and say, okay, this is our proposed sequence. And it's easy to even throw things in the middle and say, okay, we found missing links and all of that. But when you actually look at the mechanics behind it, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't cut mustard, yes.
Okay.
So how do we get, in the evolutionary history, a single-celled organism to turn all the way into a human being? Well, when we have children, we don't come out looking exactly like our parents. You know, there are some similarities. They might have similar hair color, similar eyes, things like that. But there are changes that occur. We know that happens. For example, we have two types of changes. We've got built-in variation, which has to do with our genes. We've got a pretty good beat on genes. We kind of know what to expect with that now. And we have random mutations, which are copying errors largely in DNA. It looks like there's some evidence that some of them are pre-programmed, which is even more evidence of design. But they're copying errors. When DNA gets replicated, mistakes happen. So we'll look at these things very quickly here. Built-in variation. We have two dogs here, and they have genes that make fur length. They actually have two copies of each gene because they got one from mom and one from dad. These dogs have a gene to make long fur and short fur, and their bodies, the genes combine to give them medium length fur. When these dogs breed, they will get to pick one or the other. They actually don't choose which one, but one gene goes or the other. If they both pass on a gene to make short fur, the puppy comes out with two copies, both make short fur, doesn't have a choice, it's going to have short fur. The other end of the spectrum, they both pass on a gene for long fur, puppies come out with long fur, doesn't have a choice.
And then the more these breed from here, then you're going to get a predominantly short fur from this one. And more likely, we're going to get a lot more longer fur variations.
That's how our genes work. If one passes on a gene for long fur and the other passes on for short fur, the puppies can come out with long fur or short fur depending upon which gene is expressed, or if they both combine, then you get medium length fur again. So these genes make a variety of fur length. And it doesn't just do fur length, it does other things too. You make big dogs, small dogs, long ears, short ears. All the different features we see in dogs are pre-programmed on the DNA.
And we've purposely used this very idea to selectively breed and sort of try to get the components we want.
Right, we can be very creative, just like God is creative. We can do that because we kind of know what to expect with the genes. Now we got two sets of animals here on the screen, set A and B, and we can ask ourselves which set looks more similar to each other. Answer's kind of obvious. Set A. Why? Because they're really the same kind of animal. Genesis says over and over that God created creatures to reproduce after their kind. Today, dogs, dingoes, coyotes, and wolves can all breed together.
And any child can tell you that they're more similar.
Right. And when you breed a dog and a wolf, we get a wolf dog. It's not a surprise. But you can't breed the dog and the wolf and get an ostrich. That was not going to happen because they don't have genetic information to make beaks and feathers. So we do see a variety. There's other animals we can breed, a zebra and a donkey. We get a zonkey. Sounds funny, but it's real science. Why? Are these completely different animals? No. Same animal basically, except one has a nice paint job.
Yeah.
We can also breed lions and tigers, and we get a liger.
Okay.
Because they're both large cats.
Yes.
The same kind of animal. But we can't breed a lion and a kangaroo to get a liangaroo. That was not going to happen.
All right.
Because we're not talking about the same kind of animal. A bunch of other animals we can also not get. You can see these here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is what happens when you have Photoshop and too much time on your hands.
But it's the truth. You have these different animals of specific kinds, basic kinds, and they have this ability to produce variation.
Yeah, built-in variation, but always within limits.
Hi, I'm David Rives, host of Wonders Without Number. Like what you're seeing? You can find so much more on the Creation Superstore. You'll find over 1,000 books, DVDs, and other quality resources on origin science, creation, and Bible history. Whether you're looking for nature documentaries, educational books, homeschool resources, or children's videos, we've got it all, so be sure to head over and check it out. Use this special promo code to receive 10% off your first order.
So that was a built-in variation. Now we take a look at random mutations, which are basically accidental copying errors. So we are now transformed into an evolutionary classroom, and I'm a PhD evolutionary biologist for now, talking about how evolution works. Got an organism up here, it's going to reproduce, it's got to copy its DNA, it has offspring, children. They come out looking just like the parents, same DNA.
Yeah.
Children reproduce, have grandchildren, same DNA, copy of it, look like the parents and grandparents. Grandchildren reproduce, and we got issue going on here.
Okay.
We have some significant mutations happening here. You can see some of them apparently are bad, some apparently are good. And then natural selection comes along like a superhero, wipes out most of the bad ones, keeps the good ones,
Okay.
and then reproduction continues. The new good guys reproduce, you got more of the new ones, and then the other ones reproduce. This process goes on for millions and millions of years. Can you imagine the great variety of creatures we'd have on this planet with this process like that?
It sounds really logical, reasonable.
It really does. And the non-Christian students in this class say it makes perfect sense to me, but the Christians say, well, it makes perfect sense to me, maybe God.
Hello, I'm David Rives, host of Wonders Without Number. In each episode, we talk about breaking discoveries in science, which reveal that our Creator, the God of the Bible, has left a pattern of His fingerprints throughout the universe. Check out our other resources at davidrives.com. Sign up for email updates to have encouraging nuggets sent straight to your inbox. Subscribe to our free monthly magazine and like us on Facebook for daily inspiration and education regarding science and the Bible. While it's easy for us to look at different creatures and imagine that they might have evolved through a long series of changes, a look at DNA reveals a very different picture. Find out more on Wonders Without Number. Welcome to Wonders Without Number. I'm David Rives, and today we want to inform and inspire you regarding the wonders we find all around us. An infinite number of wonders that point us directly to our Creator, the God of the Bible. Now, you're no accident. I want you to know that you're special, that you were created in God's own image, that Jesus Christ was and is that creator, and that He has a plan for your life. Now, God has designed some amazing systems into your body, which allows it to self-heal. A great example would be blood clotting. It's necessary in this fallen world, and it usually works really well. Let's take a look. So be sure to head over and check it out. Use this special promo code to receive 10% off your first order.
So that was a built-in variation. Now we take a look at random mutations, which is basically accidental copying errors. So we are now transformed into an evolutionary classroom, and I'm a PhD evolutionary biologist for now, talking about how evolution works. Got an organism up here, it's going to reproduce, it's got to copy its DNA, it has offspring, children. They come out looking just like the parents, same DNA.
Yeah.
Children reproduce, have grandchildren, same DNA, copy of it, look like the parents and grandparents. Grandchildren reproduce, and we got an issue going on here.
Okay.
We have some significant mutations happening here. You can see some of them apparently are bad, some apparently are good. And then natural selection comes along like a superhero, wipes out most of the bad ones, keeps the good ones,
Okay.
and then reproduction continues. The new good guys reproduce, you got more of the new ones, and then the other ones reproduce. This process goes on for millions and millions of years. Can you imagine the great variety of creatures we'd have on this planet with this process like that?
It sounds really logical, reasonable.
It really does. And the non-Christian students in this class say it makes perfect sense to me, but the Christians say, well, it makes perfect sense to me. Maybe God used evolution, maybe the Bible's wrong.
Okay.
So, issues going on there. But now is where it starts to get interesting. We're going to take a closer look at these mutations. Can they do what they tell us that they're doing, producing all this variety, single-celled organism to a human being? I'm going to make 3 really quick points. We'll talk about, I think, 2 of them. First of all, these mutations are purposeless, undirected, and random. They occur in the DNA, and they're almost entirely detrimental and bad. I think we'll look at the first and the third one here.
Okay.
They're purposeless, undirected, and random. Nova Online, an evolutionary source, says this. It's sometimes convenient when trying to make sense of evolution to think of changes within a species of having a purpose, as though Mother Nature has some intended goal she sets out to achieve. The bacteria want to survive, someone might reason, when thinking about the declining effects of antibiotics, and so they evolve into resistant strains. Of course, there is no purpose in evolution, just random mutations within DNA, most of which are detrimental to the survivability of the organism. So they're admitting, okay, these mutations aren't looking so good. Then we have Discovery News that presumably the sauropods evolved large body size as a strategy to deter predators. They give you the impression that a creature needed something, so they tried to do something to achieve it. Whereas pretty much every evolutionist I've ever met said, no, it's not how it works. It's just accidental copying errors. They're not trying to evolve lungs or this or that. They can't. How could they possibly force their evolution?
It's just like their bodies have minds, and they realize they need to do something. But most biologists would tell you, no, this is a random process.
They don't believe that, but the popular literature will make it sound like it works that way.
Okay.
Very quickly jump into the third thing here, that these mutations are almost all detrimental bad. The story that I'm going to share now, we call it a story of evolution, not to be derogatory, but it really is a story about the past. I get this analogy from Dr. John Sanford's book, Genetic Entropy.
Very good, yeah.
Great book. One of his analogies was, he said, let's say that a single-celled organism has about the same amount of information as a biochemistry textbook. It's true. Then how do you change this single-celled organism into a human being? Got to make a lot of changes. Well, here's a picture of one of the pages, and here's some of the text. If we simply just copy this over and over and over, a million years from now, we'll just have a lot more of these textbooks. If we want to change it into something else, we got to make changes. What are the changes? The mutations we've been talking about. So here's some example of mutations. We have a duplication mutation.
Okay.
We add an extra T there. It doesn't spell the anymore.
Yes.
People would read that, oh, it's just a typo. It's not how our genes work. The gene saw this, I don't know what this is, and it would skip and move on. And we have a deletion. Take the first E out of energy.
Okay.
Doesn't spell energy anymore.
Yeah.
And then electron, take the N out there and put a Y, and it's a substitution. Mutation.
Okay.
Doesn't spell electron anymore. These are examples of mutations. You ask a kindergartner, we took your favorite book, randomly opened up, stuck our finger in there, and just made these types of changes, delete things, change letters, just kept doing that over time. What would happen to your book? Would it get better and better and better? Kindergartners say, no, it'll get worse and worse. In fact, you have to be highly educated to not understand this process, unfortunately. That's what happens. These brilliant scientists just, it's a spiritual issue.
Yes.
So, this is where it's going to get even more interesting, cutting edge stuff. The challenge for evolution gets worse than that.
Okay.
And this is where we're gleaning things from the Bioinformatics Symposium from Cornell. Let's say we're looking at a segment of our DNA, we're reading it. I suppose, was it a rat I saw? Strange sentence. Let's clean it up, take the punctuation away. In English, we read from left to right.
Yeah.
But you may have noticed, you can actually read this backwards too. Was it a rat I saw?
Ah, nice.
It's called a palindrome.
Okay.
Forwards and backwards.
Yeah.
This is what we've discovered, that much of our DNA can not only be read forwards, but can also be read backwards. But that was the same message. Take a look at the word desserts here. We flip that around, it spells stressed, which is what I get when I don't get dessert. Now let's introduce a random mutation here. Just randomly delete the T. It doesn't spell desserts anymore, but it also now doesn't spell stressed.
Oh.
One random change messed up two messages because we got forwards and backwards messages going on here.
So with DNA, you can have actually instructions going left to right, let's just say, and it means something. You can have instructions going from right to left. It means something entirely different, but it's still utilizing the same characters. You're saying if you remove just one character in that chain, well then not only have you changed the first meaning of it, but also the second part of the message is completely altered.
And we don't see little words that flip around. We see up to entire chapters of complex instructions. And give you a quick analogy here so everyone understands what we're talking about here. Let's say you had a job working in a smartphone factory and it's your training, your education to write the instruction manual to give to the manufacturing plant to make these things.
Okay.
Boss comes to you, says, I got a project for you. I need you to write the chapter in the manual that explains how the phone's going to download apps from the web.
Yeah.
Say, okay, I can do that. He says, okay, I got one other detail though. When you write this chapter, you have to write it in such a way that if we read it backwards, it explains how the phone's going to play music files.
Oh.
And you'd be thinking, well, you're just kidding, right? I mean, it's impossible. That is humanly impossible. It cannot be done. You can't even program a computer to do that. I did computer programming for 18 years.
Okay.
Can't be done. But this is what we're seeing in our DNA. Read it one direction, you got an entire chapter, complex instructions that make certain proteins that carry out a certain function in your body. Read it backwards, it makes completely different proteins carry out different functions. Two major points: particles smashing together in nature can never make an complex instruction information system like this. And number two, when you copy it over time, make random changes, you're not going to make it better and better, you're going to ruin it.
Okay. And that makes sense. And so you're saying it takes someone highly intelligent just to write an instruction book on one process, but this is something that we don't have the intelligence to be able to do, is to write something that means something one way. An entire instruction book, if you read it the other way, it means something entirely different. Yet this is happening in our bodies as we speak.
It happens, and then it gets even worse than that for evolution. Here's an interesting phrase: I like chocolate later that evening. Strange, because it's two phrases. I like chocolate, which is true, and then later that evening. It overlaps in the middle, L-A-T-E. It shares these letters. This is called overlapping instructions. Introduce a random mutation. We change the E out, put an H in there. We just lost both messages. It doesn't spell I like chocolate or later that evening. One change messed up two messages because they overlap. This is what we're seeing in our DNA. Again, we have entire chapters of instructions that overlap each other. And moving fast forward here, the challenge gets worse. Same phrase again. Let's take some segments, bring them down below. It spells I like her hat.
Okay.
This is a spliced message. Let's introduce a random mutation, get rid of the H. It doesn't spell I like chocolate, but it doesn't spell I like her hat. One change messed up the main message and the splice message. We see that in our DNA. You can go through and take out different segments and build other messages. In fact, long sentences and short paragraphs can be taken throughout the DNA instance, put together to have another set of instructions.
Wow.
So to make one change, you're messing up so many layers of information. And it gets worse than that. We have embedded information. Can you show Mike Olson checks from Oliver's labeled facts and set it on Herb's desk? Well, what if we take every ninth letter and bring them down below? It spells chocolate.
Oh, okay.
And this is what we're seeing. If we made a random mutation here, delete the W, that shifts all the letters over one spot and messes up the message below.
And all of this is going on. We've only learned this in the very recent past, right? This is a new process of trying to understand our genetic sequence.
It's pretty cutting edge information. It actually gets even worse than that. We have encrypted information. I actually had 2 interviews with the CIA to work in their cryptographic analysis division. Interesting story for some other time. Yeah. Very quickly, meaningless phrase going across here. But what if we found out there's an encryption key where everywhere there's an H, it's really an A, every B is really a C. You make the substitutions, and you find out that spells this is an encrypted message. Oh. This is what we have in our DNA. There's actually encrypted messages as well. It actually goes deeper than this. It goes on and on with encrypted messages. We even have 3D messages in our DNA. So every time you make a random change, you're not only messing up the main message, you're messing up other layers as well.
Okay. So break it down for us just a little bit. Within our DNA sequence, it could be looked at as this blueprint that makes you who you are. It spells out it can be described as in characters what's going to happen. But you're saying that can be combined, it can be read different ways, it can be spliced together, encoded, and yet our bodies have the ability to decode all of this.
Well, it's extremely complex. But the whole point is you can't have particles smashing together in nature creating this complexity. Number one, it won't create it to begin with. And number two, when you take some complex information to begin with and you just make random changes to it, you're not going to make it better and better, you're going to make it worse.
It's always going to get worse.
Yes.
Okay, so this is looking pretty good for a designer who in the beginning created everything according to their kind. He created us distinctly different from the animals in the image of God.
Yes, evidence for a creator who knew.
This is so exciting, and the cutting edge research that you brought to us today, what more might we discover? Give it another 10 years, and I think that everyone is just going to be so amazed at the complexity, not only that has already been discovered, but what will be discovered in the near future, and it all points back to the God of the Bible.
Always.
You have done a DVD called Evolution, Probable or Problematic, and you look at a lot of what we've seen today and more in detail. Evolution, Probable or Problematic. What's your website?
It is thestartingpointproject.com.
Thestartingpointproject.com. Everybody go check it out. Thank you, Jay, for being here.
Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Yes, sir. It seems that every year a new breaking discovery throws a monkey wrench in the theories of natural origin. While most in school and university are taught only naturalistic evolution, many experts in the fields of biology and genetics are beginning to wonder how these mechanisms could have ever happened on their own. Now, the short story is, they couldn't. Our Creator designed you with purpose and wonder, and He left the message of DNA for us to marvel over. He also sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to pay for our sins at Calvary, offering us the gift of eternal life with Him. We hope that you've been encouraged and educated today, and we want to give you the tools that you need to boldly go forward and share what you've learned. So leave us questions and comments on our Facebook page and give us a call to learn more. I'm David Rives, and until next time, keep looking up. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God. Hello, I'm David Rives, host of the TV show Creation in the 21st Century on TBN and the Heavens Declare video series. Each week we talk about breaking discoveries in science which reveal that our Creator, the God of the Bible, has left a pattern of His fingerprints throughout the universe. Engage with other like-minded believers through the Creation Club. This website offers thousands of articles written by scores of authors in multiple languages. Sign up to get our free monthly magazine delivered to your door. Want more? Genesis Science Network is our free 24/7 TV network, reaching millions of people around the world on internet, Roku, Fire TV, and mobile devices. Shop over 1,000 books and videos on the Creation Superstore, the world's largest origins-related store. Visit our Wonders of Creation Center and sign up for email updates to have encouraging articles sent straight to your inbox. Like us on Facebook for daily inspiration and education regarding science and the Bible.